From the moment the door of the dusty roadside diner swung open and the sound of roaring engines faded into a tense silence, Maya felt her heartbeat stutter. She had dealt with loud customers, rude customers, tired travelers, broken families, and lonely souls, but nothing ever felt as heavy as the atmosphere that followed the group of leather-clad bikers who walked in that evening. The locals whispered their name with both fear and respect, the Hells Angels. They carried an aura of danger, of stories never spoken but written across their weathered faces, of battles survived without witnesses. And though Maya had grown used to hiding her fears behind tired smiles, something inside her trembled as she noticed the tallest biker among them, a man with a harsh, jagged scar running from his left temple down to his jawline. That scar, carved like a brutal memory, was the exact shape, length, and placement as the one her younger brother carried from a night they wished they could forget forever. In that first moment, before she even forced herself to speak, Maya felt the air tighten with destiny. Something deep, unsettling, and life-changing was about to unfold. Backhand index pointing right viewers, before the story continues, if you believe kindness still exists in this world, if you believe people deserve second chances, then please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Tales. It helps us reach more hearts just like yours. Maya tried to focus on her work as she collected menus, but her hands were shaking. She wasn't afraid of the bikers themselves, not exactly. She had seen enough lost souls to know that danger was not always where others imagined it to be. What shook her was the memory of her brother, Ian, lying in a hospital bed months ago, his life hanging by a thread, his face bruised and stitched after being caught in the crossfire of a street brawl he never wanted to be part of. The scar on his face had become a symbol of guilt for Maya. She had been working double shifts to support them both, and on the night of the attack, she wasn't there to walk home with him like she usually did. Ian always said it wasn't her fault, but she carried the weight anyway. Every day she blamed herself a little more. And tonight, seeing that same scar on a stranger shook her soul in ways she couldn't explain. The bikers sat at the largest booth. Everyone else went silent, pretending not to stare, but their fear hovered like thick smoke. Maya, breath trembling, stepped forward with her menu. Her mind kept returning to her brother's scar, to the pain she had witnessed, to the helpless nights when she thought she would lose him. And now, fate had placed a man in front of her who bore the same mark. Like a mirror. Like a warning. Like a story waiting to collide with her own. The tall biker noticed her staring just a second too long, and for a moment a spark of tension shot through the room. Maya swallowed hard, realizing she had crossed an invisible line. She whispered an apology and quickly served the drinks, all while trying to convince herself that she shouldn't get involved, shouldn't speak, shouldn't open old wounds. But her heart would not listen. As she leaned in to place a plate on the table, she accidentally caught another glimpse of that scar under the diner's yellow tube light. The shape. The curve. The way the skin pulled slightly when he blinked. It was too similar. Too exact. Her breath hitched. Emotion cracked her voice before she could stop it. In a small, trembling tone she never planned to let slip, she said the words that would change everything. "Sir, my brother has a scar just like yours." For a full 5 seconds, the diner froze. The biker's fork hung in midair. His companions stopped talking. Even the cook in the back paused. The scarred man turned toward her slowly, eyes narrowing, not in anger, but in a strange, intense curiosity, as if the universe had whispered something only he heard. Maya instantly regretted speaking. She wished she could disappear. She felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment and fear. But before she could retreat, the man's expression softened in a way she never expected from someone with a life carved into his skin. And in that silent, heavy moment, something shifted. Not just in the room, but inside Maya too. The biker gestured for her to continue, and as if releasing a dam she had held shut for months, Maya began talking. Not loudly, not confidently, but honestly, from a place of deep, raw pain. She told them how her brother had once been full of dreams, how he wanted to become a mechanic, how he adored motorcycles even though he was too young to ride one. She explained how he had been beaten by a group of boys who wanted to drag him into something illegal, and how he had refused. She spoke of the night she ran into the hospital clutching her breath, praying she wasn't too late. And as she spoke, she noticed the tall biker's eyes growing distant, haunted, as if every word she said was unlocking memories he had buried long ago. What she didn't know was that this man, known among bikers as Red Wolf, had once been a boy very much like Ian. A boy who took the wrong path to survive. A boy who carried his scar not as a badge of pride, but as a reminder of his darkest turning point. Her words were peeling open a wound he never allowed himself to feel. The diner, once tense, now felt strangely calm, almost sacred. The other bikers listened quietly, their faces losing the hardness people feared. Maya realized she wasn't talking to monsters, she was talking to men who had lived through things nobody should face alone. When she mentioned how Ian had lost his confidence, how he stopped looking in the mirror, how he hadn't smiled properly in months, the biker's jaw clenched, and for the first time that night, she saw sorrow in his eyes. He understood that kind of pain. He had lived it. He had survived it. And now, incredibly, something in him wanted to do more than just listen, he wanted to help. But Maya had already stepped back, suddenly feeling foolish for unloading her heart to strangers. She whispered that she would bring their food and hurried away. For the next hour, she avoided their table, but she could feel their eyes follow her, not in a threatening way, but in a quiet, thoughtful silence. And then, when the bikers stood to leave, the tall man walked to the counter and placed a thick envelope in front of her. His voice, though low and rough, carried a kind of compassion that made Maya's throat tighten. He told her he had once been saved by someone who believed broken people deserved another chance. He said scars were not signs of weakness, but signs of survival. He added that Ian needed to hear that from someone who understood. Maya hesitated, confused, until he gently pushed the envelope toward her and walked out with his group. When Maya opened it later in the break room, she gasped. Inside were medical vouchers, rehabilitation support papers, and enough money to cover Ian's remaining hospital bills and therapy, everything she had been struggling for months to manage alone. She burst into tears, her hands trembling uncontrollably. She had always believed kindness still existed, but she never imagined it would arrive wearing leather jackets adorned with skulls. That night, when she told Ian what happened, he cried for the first time since the incident. Not from pain, but from hope. It was the beginning of his healing. Days turned into weeks, and as Ian slowly regained his strength and confidence, Maya realized something powerful. Sometimes the people we fear are the ones who carry the deepest wounds, and sometimes they are the ones who offer the greatest kindness. Months later, the same group of bikers returned. But this time the diner wasn't filled with silence or fear, it was filled with warmth. Ian was with Maya, stronger and smiling, and when the tall biker saw him, something like pride flickered across his face. They didn't exchange dramatic words or emotional speeches. They didn't need to. The moment itself spoke louder than anything they could say. One broken past had recognized another. One scar had reflected another. One act of kindness had changed two lives forever. Backhand index pointing right. If this story touched your heart even a little, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Tales. Your support helps us bring more emotional, real, and life-changing stories to the world. And, as a special request before we end, please comment, kindness still wins.